Okay, let's dive right in. We're talking about a dispute over Greenland that sounds, well, a little bizarre, but it's actually pushing the whole transatlantic alliance to a breaking point. This is a story about raw geopolitics, deep-seated dependencies, and a really high-stakes showdown that could totally reshape the relationship between the US and Europe. I know what you're thinking. A crisis over Greenland? It sounds like something from another century, doesn't it? But this is a genuine, modern-day crisis. A fight over an Arctic island is creating some serious friction between the US and its European allies. And believe me, this isn't just a minor diplomatic spat, it is escalating into something much, much more serious. And wow, just look at how quickly things are heating up. You've got Denmark sending in more soldiers, the EU calling an emergency summit, and the United States issuing threats. It's like watching someone pull blocks from a Jenga tower. Every single move makes the whole thing more unstable. This is high-stakes political maneuvering, and it's putting everyone on edge. But let's be clear, this isn't about some simple land grab. This quote from the Czech Prime Minister, it just cuts right to the heart of the matter. A Russian missile is over Greenland in 11 minutes, and from there, it hits the White House in just 26 minutes. This whole thing is about geography, it's about geopolitics, and it's about raw military power. Okay, so to really get what's happening, we need to peel this onion back a layer and look at it from the American perspective. I mean, why is this remote, icy island all of a sudden so critical to Washington? So the official story from the US is that this isn't about Greenland's huge mineral resources, the rare earth metals and all that. No, they're saying their primary concern is national security, that Greenland's location is just absolutely vital, especially now with the Arctic becoming more and more important, and of course with rising threats from Russia and China. But hang on a second. You might be thinking, the US already has a defense treaty with Denmark that covers Greenland, right? It goes all the way back to World War II. So why all the pressure now? Well, the thinking in Washington seems to be that the old rules just aren't good enough for today's world. Maybe they think the treaty is obsolete, or, and this is interesting, maybe there's a deeper distrust about Europe's ability to handle really sensitive defense tech. And this timeline, man, it really tells the story, doesn't it? During the Cold War, you had this massive US presence. We're talking tens of thousands of troops, strategic bombers, even nuclear weapons. Now you compare that to today, it's basically a skeleton crew of about 200 soldiers. The American argument is pretty simple. In this new era of competition with major powers, they need a much stronger footprint there again. All right, so that's the US side. Now for the next layer, let's talk about Europe. Because while the US is making its case, Europe is not speaking with one voice. Not even close. It's an alliance that is split right down the middle on this. So on one side, you've got the hawks, countries like France, the Nordic states, and the UK. They're ready to take a really firm stance and back Denmark all the way. But then you have the doves, like Italy and the Czech Republic. They're way more cautious. They're painfully aware of Europe's weaknesses, and they're really worried about the consequences of angering a powerful ally like the US. Now, those hawks, they have a powerful weapon they're thinking about using. And honestly, it's kind of terrifying. It's a tool for economic warfare that's literally called the economic bazooka. It's an anti-coercion instrument so powerful, get this, it has never been activated before. Ever. And if they actually used it, well, it would be devastating for the American economy. It could lock US companies out of massive European contracts. We're talking things like F-35 jets or nuclear power plants. And even worse, it could restrict patent rights. That would strike right at the heart of the business models of America's biggest tech and social media companies. So if Europe has this economic superweapon, why are the doves so hesitant to even talk about using it? Well, when we peel back the next layer, we get to the core of the problem. A deeply, fundamentally unbalanced relationship between the US and Europe. First up, and this is the big one, military technology. To put it bluntly, Europe is existentially dependent on the US here. For critical systems like the Patriot air defense that literally protect the continent, there is just no European equivalent. All the past efforts to build a truly independent European defense industry, they've consistently failed. Second, intelligence. When it comes to that all-seeing eye in the sky, the spy satellites, the global surveillance, Europe still leans very, very heavily on the huge capabilities of the United States. And third, there's energy. After making the huge shift away from Russian gas, Europe's energy security is now directly tied to the United States and its supply of LNG. And that's a critical economic vulnerability that gives Washington a ton of leverage in any kind of dispute. So you start to add all that up. The military dependency, the intelligence dependency, the energy dependency, and it leads to a pretty stark and frankly unavoidable conclusion about how this whole confrontation is going to end.
Right, so this is the crucial point. If this is a geopolitical game, how does it actually end? What's the final score going to be?
Well, according to expert analysis from Victor Denek over at the European Institute, the game is already over. Europe has lost. The only question left is the margin of defeat. Is it going to be a close loss, like 1-0, or an absolute blowout, 10-0? And look, don't mistake that for an exaggeration. The potential for a total diplomatic humiliation, that 10-0 route, is very, very real. The power imbalance that we just walked through is just that severe. And the thing is, this didn't just happen overnight. This outcome was sealed over years and years of missed opportunities. Europe has repeatedly ignored warnings, including from the US itself, by the way, to fix its strategic weaknesses. And now, it's in this incredibly vulnerable position. And what's so tragic about this whole situation is that the solutions are well known. Everyone knows what needs to be done. A unified capital market to fuel innovation. A real European defense union to coordinate military power. A truly seamless single market to boost competitiveness. But time and time again, short-term national interests have blocked any real progress on these long-term goals. Which really leaves us with the final critical question, doesn't it? Europe has the blueprints. It knows exactly what it needs to do to build a more stable ship to navigate these geopolitical storms and actually control its own destiny. The question is, will its leaders ever find the unity and the political will to actually build it before the next crisis hits?